Burkina Faso, a land often overshadowed by global powers, recently became the stage of one of the most shocking political plots in modern African history. A young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, had risen with a bold promise to break the chains of foreign control and give his people true sovereignty. But in the shadows, betrayal was already taking shape, fueled by greed, manipulation, and external interests. Traoré's leadership quickly ignited hope across the nation, especially among the youth. His defiance against Western influence and his call for African self-determination made him a symbol of resistance. But these same qualities turned him into a target for those whose profits depended on Africa's submission. Hidden meetings and silent conspiracies began to spread inside the military ranks of his own country. What followed was not just a failed coup, it was the exposure of a global game of power. In a masterful counterstrike, Traoré and his loyal forces revealed the faces behind the plot, both within Burkina Faso and abroad. This story is not only about one leader's survival, it is a lesson for an entire continent and a warning to the world. In the silent corridors of Ouagadougou, far from the public eye, a deadly plan was unfolding. Disguised as routine military coordination, a group of discontent soldiers began to gather in secret. Their goal was chilling: to remove the very leader who had promised to free the nation from foreign control. Whispers of rebellion echoed through the barracks, but the plotters felt secure. The soldiers claimed that Traoré was too bold, too dangerous for business as usual. Yet beneath their excuses hid the true motive. Traoré was not just challenging internal corruption, he was shaking the foundations of international interests. Those who had long benefited from Burkina Faso's resources feared the loss of their grip. And so, a plan was set in motion, with foreign encouragement and promises of power. Contacts were established with outsiders suspected of working for Western agents. The message was clear: remove Traoré, and riches, protection, and fast promotion would follow. This was not just discontent, it was organized treachery with foreign fingerprints all over it. The conspirators believed they were acting in the shadows, unnoticed, unstoppable. They waited for the perfect moment to strike. Their plan was precise and ruthless. During one of Traoré's visits to the northern command posts, they would stage an ambush. The assassination would be blamed on terrorist groups active in the region. With Traoré gone, the coup leaders would claim legitimacy and seize full control of the government. But in every great betrayal, there is one fatal mistake: underestimating the vigilance of the one you seek to destroy. What the traitors did not know was that Traoré had already seen the signs. While they sharpened their knives, he was building a defense, not with brute force alone, but with intelligence, loyalty, and strategy. While the traitors plotted in secret, President Traoré was quietly assembling a new kind of army, one built not of guns and tanks, but of information and loyalty. His intelligence team was composed of men and women devoted not to money, but to the soil of Burkina Faso. Their mission was simple: watch, listen, and uncover the truth hiding behind the smiles. Every phone call, every late-night meeting, every unusual movement was tracked with precision. These agents followed the money trails, identified contacts, and recorded conversations. Day after day, piece by piece, the puzzle was coming together. What seemed like isolated frustrations among soldiers revealed something much bigger: a coordinated effort powered by foreign influence and external funding. But Traoré was patient. He knew that rushing into action too early could expose his hand and allow the conspirators to escape justice. Instead, he let the plot grow, feeding on its own arrogance. His team allowed the traitors to feel safe, even emboldened. All the while, their every step was being documented, their codes intercepted, their meeting points known. Among the group of conspirators was a soldier whose loyalty to the president remained unshaken. He volunteered to infiltrate the heart of the rebellion. Quietly, he gained their trust, attended their meetings, memorized their plans. Through him, the intelligence team knew the exact time and place of the attack. The traitors believed they were invisible. In truth, they were walking into a well-laid trap. The stage was set, weapons were counted, escape routes were marked, The conspirators prepared to strike. But they were not alone. Invisible eyes watched every move. Traoré and his loyal forces stood ready, not to defend with panic, but to dismantle the betrayal, with precision and power. The night chosen for the coup was dark and quiet, too quiet for Ouagadougou. Deep inside the military barracks, the conspirators gathered one last time, going over their plan in hushed voices. Their weapons were ready, their uniforms prepared. Every detail had been calculated. They believed that by morning, Traoré would be dead, and they would hold the reins of power. But what they did not know was that their plan had already collapsed before it began. Hours before their move, Traoré gave the silent command. In a perfectly coordinated operation, loyal forces surrounded the key checkpoints. Barracks were locked down, communication towers were secured, escape routes were blocked. The coup leaders were trapped inside their own web. As the loyal soldiers swept through the barracks, they uncovered the weapons meant for the ambush. Hidden cash stuffed into bags, foreign currency in crisp bills, encrypted phones buzzing with messages from unknown numbers, one radio device, French-made, still tuned to a secret channel. The evidence of betrayal was undeniable. One by one, the traitors were arrested, their faces exposed to the very men they once commanded. Some remained silent, refusing to speak. But one broke under questioning. His voice shaking, he whispered the truth. They promised us safety if we failed. But failure was not the right word. Their plot hadn't simply failed, it had been crushed before the first shot could be fired. Traoré, calm and calculating, did not rush to address the public. He let the nation sit in suspense, unaware of the storm that had been quietly defeated overnight. But behind the scenes, preparations were being made. The truth would soon be revealed, not just to Burkina Faso, but to the entire world. As the sun rose over Ouagadougou, the city sensed that something extraordinary had happened. Whispers filled the air, rumors spreading like wildfire. Soldiers had been arrested, a coup had been stopped. But the details remained unclear. The people gathered in the streets waiting for answers, waiting for their president to speak. Then came the sound of heavy trucks rolling through the city. Slowly, they approached the crowded square. Dozens of captured soldiers were brought out, not hidden behind masks, but exposed for all to see. These were men once respected, once trusted, now kneeling on the hot ground, hands tied, heads bowed in shame. Standing before them was President Ibrahim Traoré, calm and unshaken, yet burning with quiet rage. Behind him, the national flag of Burkina Faso waved defiantly against the wind. There were no scripts, no speeches written by advisors. His words came slow, clear, and powerful. He pointed to the men and declared, "These are not heroes. They are not patriots. They are traitors." The crowd gasped. Some wept. Others shouted in anger, raising fists, crying out for justice. Traoré walked among the kneeling soldiers, stopping before one of them, a man who had once been his classmate in military school. Looking into the soldier's eyes, he asked softly, "Even you?" The man could not raise his head. Then Traoré turned to the people, his voice stronger, his message unmistakable. They took money from the enemies of Africa, from foreign powers who still believe we are their property. But we are not. We are free people now. The square erupted with cheers, drums beating, voices chanting his name. It was not just a punishment. It was a message to the traitors, to their sponsors, to the world. The betrayal shocked the nation, but what truly stunned the people was the discovery of who stood behind it. This was not just the work of greedy soldiers hungry for power. Behind the scenes, invisible strings were being pulled by foreign hands, manipulating the plot from offices far outside Burkina Faso's borders. Traoré's security team began to search through the phones, laptops, and encrypted messages seized from the captured traitors. What they uncovered revealed a much darker reality. Emails traced back to private military firms in Europe, conversations written in perfect French and English, not the informal style of local soldiers. The plot was not born in Ouagadougou. It was designed abroad. Among the files were orders using language familiar to intelligence agencies, Ensure asset is removed before Q4. Priority, neutralize northern visit. Funds approved for secondary team. These were not just rebellious thoughts. These were commands from professionals trained in covert operations, experts at destabilizing governments. The money trail led directly to Western bank accounts. One officer was caught with over $50,000 in crisp foreign bills, mostly in US dollars and euros. Another had been in weekly contact with an agent claiming to work for a humanitarian group. That phone number was later traced to an embassy building in West Africa. The more the investigation revealed, the clearer the picture became. This was not only a coup attempt, it was an external operation, carefully planned and financed by those who feared Traoré's vision. A vision of a free Burkina Faso, independent from their influence. And they were willing to pay any price to stop it. The question echoed across the nation. Why were so many foreign powers desperate to see Traoré removed? The answer was clear to those who had been watching closely. Since taking office, Traoré had done what few African leaders dared. He had cut the chains. He expelled foreign troops. He shut down exploitative mining companies draining gold and lithium from Burkinabe soil. But it was not just about the mines. It was about rejecting aid packed with hidden conditions, refusing to kneel before Western influence. Traoré opened the doors to new partnerships with Pan-African allies and non-Western nations willing to respect Burkina Faso's sovereignty. His message to the world was bold and simple. We are no one's colony. This defiance terrified those who profited from Africa's submission. Burkina Faso, though small, had become an example. If one nation could rise, others might follow. Mali, Niger, Guinea, even beyond the Sahel. A spark of resistance had been lit, and empires built on exploitation feared the wildfire that could come. Journalists began receiving strange calls. International outlets published articles calling Traoré a young dictator. Foreign NGOs warned of democracy at risk. But behind these headlines was a deeper strategy, to paint the fight for sovereignty as tyranny, to mask foreign interests as defenders of freedom. While the world debated, inside Burkina Faso something stronger was rising. Young people filled the streets waving flags, painting murals of Traoré alongside the legendary Thomas Sankara. Songs of resistance echoed. Elders spoke of hope they had not felt since the days of independence. The plotters had failed. But, more than that, the people had awakened. This was not just the story of a failed coup. It became a turning point, a moment when the veil was lifted and the true enemy was exposed. The betrayal did not come only from within Burkina Faso. It came from distant boardrooms and foreign embassies, from those who had long treated Africa as a land to be owned, not respected. But in the streets of Ouagadougou, the message was loud and clear. Burkina Faso would not kneel. Traoré's victory was more than personal survival. It was a lesson for the entire continent, a call for unity and resistance. Across the Sahel, the heartbeat of freedom echoed. Africa had awakened. And this time it would not go back to sleep.